The unsung heroes of Solitude's Rest. The ancient mists of the Appalachians, thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, have a way of holding on to stories. They cling to the ridges and valleys, whisper through the hollows, and settle in the hearts of the people who call this land home. But for every tale of moonshiners and feuding clans, there are 100 others, quieter and deeper, that belong to the unsung heroes who never sought a name in song or legend. This is one such story, born of the mountains and carried on the wind. In the year of our Lord, 1875, the mountains were a place of brutal beauty and unforgiving hardship. The Civil War had passed like a fever dream, leaving behind scars not just on the land, but in the souls of men. In a secluded hollow known as Solitude's Rest lived a man named Elias Vance. He was not a warrior, but a healer. His hands, gnarled from a lifetime of tilling the rocky soil, held a wisdom that went beyond the physical. He could read the ailments of a body like a book, understanding the whispers of a fever and the silent ache of a broken bone. Elias had a unique gift, a deep, almost sacred connection to the herbs and remedies of the mountains. He knew which roots to dig in the light of a full moon, which leaves to dry in the shadows of his cabin, and which berries to crush to a fine powder for a poultice. People would travel for days, their tired faces etched with worry, to seek his counsel. He never asked for payment, accepted only what they could spare, a bushel of corn, a jar of honey, or a new pair of boots. But Elias's spirit was weighed down by a sorrow as old as the mountains themselves. His wife, Elena, had been taken by the fever years ago, a sickness he could not heal, a silence he could not fill. His devotion to the land and its people was his anchor, but his heart remained an empty vessel, echoing with the memory of a love that was and was no more. Miles away on the other side of a treacherous ridge known as the Devil's Spine lived a woman named Cora Mae. She was the matriarch of her family, her face a roadmap of the joys and sorrows she had endured. Cora Mae possessed a different kind of strength, the strength of faith and resilience. Her home was a beacon for the lost and the hungry. She had an uncanny ability to soothe a troubled mind with a simple song, to calm a restless child with a touch of her calloused hand. She was a weaver of stories and quilts, her loom a symphony of color and texture. Each thread she wove held a piece of her family's history, her neighbors' struggles, and the spiritual truths that she held dear. Her quilts were not just blankets, they were narratives, a spiritual tapestry that connected the people of the hollow to their past and to the future. They told tales of survival, of grace, and of God's unyielding mercy, even when the world seemed to have turned its back on them. Cora Mae's deepest grief was the quiet suffering of her community. The war had left behind a bitter harvest of broken spirits and fragmented families. Men, once strong and proud, were now listless, their eyes haunted by the things they had seen. Children were growing up without fathers, their futures as uncertain as the next harvest. The two heroes, Elias and Cora Mae, did not know each other. They were separated by the unforgiving Devil's Spine, a geographic barrier that was as much a metaphor for their isolated existence as it was for a physical landmark. But their legacies, like the roots of the ancient oaks, were destined to entwine. It began with a boy named Jesse, a child from Cora Mae's hollow. He was a bright spark of a soul, full of laughter and mischief. But a terrible sickness, a fever that burned like a wildfire, took hold of him. Cora Mae tried everything, her own remedies, her fervent prayers, but the boy's fever raged on. She knew with a certainty that settled in her bones that she had to seek Elias Vance. The journey was a desperate prayer. She set out with the boy wrapped in her warmest quilt, his small body a feverish weight in her arms. She crossed the treacherous devil's spine, a feat few women dared to attempt alone. The mountains seemed to hold their breath as she passed, the wind whispering encouragement through the trees. When she arrived at Elias's cabin, his face, typically a mask of serene calm, was etched with surprise. He had never seen a woman cross that ridge alone. He took the boy, his hands moving with the familiar, practiced grace of a seasoned healer. He knew the fever was a powerful enemy, but he also saw the unyielding love in Cora Mae's eyes, a love so powerful it had carried her across the mountains. For days they worked together, Elias with his poultices and tinctures, Cora Mae with her songs and her prayers. They were two halves of a whole, his knowledge of the physical world, her faith in the spiritual. As the boy's fever slowly broke, a different kind of healing began. Elias, in Cora Mae's presence, felt the icy grip around his heart begin to thaw. He saw in her not just a woman of faith, but a reflection of the wife he had lost. A spiritual strength that transcended all pain. Cora Mae, in turn, found in Elias a quiet companion who understood the burden she carried. The boy Jesse eventually recovered, but the connection between Elias and Cora Mae remained. They became bridge builders, carrying messages, stories, and remedies across the devil's spine. Elias would send herbs to Cora Mae, and she in turn would send him small quilts, each one a testament to the hope and resilience of the people in her hollow. They never sought to marry or combine their lives in the traditional sense. Their connection was something deeper, a spiritual union forged in shared purpose and unspoken understanding. Their legacies, though separate, became a single interwoven tapestry. Elias, with his healing hands and silent devotion, taught the people that grace can be found in the land, in the quiet wisdom of creation. He reminded them that their bodies were temples and the earth was a sacred healer. Cora Mae, with her quilts and her songs, taught them that their history was a story of divine grace, and that even in the deepest despair, hope was a thread that could be woven into their lives. Their unsung heroism lay not in grand gestures or dramatic battles, but in the quiet, persistent work of mending a broken world. They taught the people of the Appalachians that true strength is not found in the power of wealth, but in service and in unwavering commitment to a higher purpose. They reminded a generation scarred by war that healing is a journey, not an event, and that the path to a brighter future lies in the courage to cross the chasms, both physical and spiritual, that divide us. I hope you enjoyed yet another Appalachian story. Follow us for more. Have a good day, guys.